It's that time of the year, boys. Christmas time is just around the corner. So, you know, we got to get into the spirit. Christmas is all about spirit. So the one thing that is on my Christmas list, it's some Tearout dubstep. Now, hopefully Santa can provide me with some heavy Tearout dubstep. But today, I've put on my elf hat, and I'm going to try and make some Tearout dubstep of my own, and make a little tutorial video for you guys. So, if you guys had a Tearout dubstep tutorial on your Christmas list, then this elf is going to make that wish come true. Ugh. I told myself I was going to wear this hat for the whole freaking video, but I think I'll just wear the tinsel.
Don't make me destroy you. I mean, really, what the f?
Alright, so Tearout dubstep, obviously a super heavy genre. What I've noticed from listening to this genre is they like to blend a bit of like heavy metal with these bad boys in it with the dubstep element. So I thought to start this song, I'd throw down a bit of metal, you know, a bit of rock and roll, if you will. So as you can see here, I've set my tempo to 140. That's sort of the primo tempo for Tearout dubstep. So I've just written a bit of a guitar riff that I'm gonna play here, record into FL Studio, and then distort the crap out of it, make it sound like a real heavy metal guitar. So here we have it recorded into FL Studio. You'll notice I've just chucked a little riser here and a little sweep to introduce the whole song. So obviously I've got a couple of recordings to put on the left and the right. That's how you do guitars in the biz. So I started off with a muted sort of guitar playing that riff that I showed you, and I've just sort of EQ'd it so it's just not as full and just sort of, you know, a bit more low key. I did want to add something that gave it a little bit more of a vibe to it, and what I found was this little just weird ambience loop. So as we move along from that intro opening part, I wanted the guitars to come out and fully just like start smashing, you know, going real metal. So I stopped muting the guitar and I just went ham basically. And now what we need is some metal drums to really emphasize this metal sort of drop, sort of opening. So you can hear that is somewhat believable that that's an actual drummer smashing those drums, playing away at a rock concert. Is missing one thing, and that is the bass line. This bass line is just following the same progression that I was playing with that riff, and I'm also playing my ambient sample all the way through this metal drop, and that's just bringing another element to the sound. So since we're actually making Tearout, we're going to have to try and transition this into an EDM drop. So I sort of made this bridge section where I'm keeping the bass playing and adding this little brass rise. The other things I added was this big cinematic hits loop, just using a bunch of different cinematic hit samples from Kashmir. And also I added this little snare hit using sort of cinematic snare drums, and everything together creates this chill sort of bridge section that's bridging the gap between acoustic metal jam session and filthy heavy Tearout drop. Now, one thing that's going to be really essential in creating this Tearout song is the use of fills. So I've made this little fill to transition out of this bridge section into a heavy build-up section to go towards the drop. Alright, so now that we're transitioning into this build-up section, essentially what I've done is I've just put together a pretty typical bass music build-up. So what we have in here is, of course, some build-up drums. So we've got kicks and claps, and they're working together as build-up drums do, getting faster and faster. Of course, we're going to have some big beefy rises in there. Also, I've chucked a sub riser in there, so that's just moving a sub frequency from down low to high, and that adds another cool tension building element. I've also thrown this little vocal sample in there that I thought just added something to this build up. If you think you recognize that sound, it's because it's it's actually Darth Vader. It's the start of him saying, "Don't make me destroy you." That's probably going to make a lot more sense once you hear the end of this build up. Man, I can't help it, right? I just have to put Star Wars in as many things as I can. Sue me. Actually, Disney probably don't sue me, actually. But I mean, Star Wars should go in everything. So you'll probably notice that there's a hole in this build-up section. That's just because I put in another little fill. It's just some dude saying pull up and a short sweep. So yeah, that's just another cool way to really build the tension, just sort of make everything go quiet and then come in really hard and real fast. Now for the part that's actually going to make that little vocal sample make sense in the build-up. I end the drop with Darth Vader, the man himself.
Don't make me destroy you.
If Darth Vader's listening to anything, I'd say he's listening to Tearout Dubstep. I mean, Tearout Dubstep's probably pretty good listening for trying to rule the galaxy and, trying to fly starfighters, blasting some Tearout music. I can imagine pre-Darth Vader, Anakin was just probably bumping a bit of Tearout Dubstep while he's killing younglings.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
Don't make me destroy you.
But anyway, I thought Darth Vader, perfect dude to chuck in there to end the drop and really get us hyped for this Tearout drop. Alright, so now we're getting into the drop. So probably the most important thing we're going to do here is make a Tearout bass. Now there are a number of ways to go about making Tearout basses. The best way that I've seen to do it is to just stack some sounds on top of each other. The type of bass I'm going for is that machine gun bass that you're used to hearing from like Marauder. That real sort of like cha-cha-cha, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha type bass, So my first layer to this bass was this heavy sub layer. So this is a pretty simple design. I'm just using the sub oscillator over here and a bit of white noise, absolutely destroying that with the tube distortion. I've got the LFO over here. That is just a short, sharp sort of shape, and I've put that on the white noise level and the sub level, so that's just controlling the volume, making that go down nice and quick. The other LFO is LFO 1, and that is connected to the master tuning. It was just a bit of trial and error what I was doing here. I've got this set to precisely to -7 for some reason. So that was the first layer. The second layer is actually made out of a kick sample, so this is probably a pretty untraditional way of trying to sound design. This kick, obviously, without any effects processing, sounds like a kick. With all the processing on it, it sounds a bit like a bass shot. The magic is happening in the Serum FX. It's all in this Combs filter down here. Whack on some distortion, EQ, compression, and then chuck on a Combs, and then Basically play around with the cutoff frequency, the res, the drive. My final layer is this little percussion shot here. So that's real sort of like wacky, gunny, whatever you want to call it, without the processing. It's a whole lot of nothing with the processing. And that's just achieved through distortion and again serum effects, running a Combs filter. When we stack those together, we get a really nice, thick, machine gun bass type sound. So here you can see in my Tearout one-shots all throughout the drop working their magic. Before we even hit the drop, I wanted to put a few of these one-shots in, and I'm just going to filter these in with a low-pass filter to sort of introduce them to the drop before we actually hit.
Don't make me destroy you.
So I'll show you how I organized my one-shot basses. It's actually a pretty simple process. You just basically click them onto the screen and sort of make up a pattern. Now let's look at all the other elements that are sort of working with that one-shot bass to make this really full, really thick, and really heavy. The obvious place to look is the drums. Now I've gone for a simple sort of rhythm type beat, I guess. Just a kick and a snare. Of course we need some top end, so I just throw in a few hi-hat loops in there just to bring in that high end. Now you'll notice I have a whole lot of gaps in there. There's to make way for a few fills. So a really cool thing to do is have this really heavy bass thrown down and then just cut everything and just have a little fill in there. So I've just thrown in like little bass shots, for example, this cough effect. They're really simple, they're literally single samples, but just having that moment of silence with just a little fill in there really makes a difference. For the extras that are working with this Tearout bass, I throw in some yois in there. So yeah, this is just a simple little bass sound that's just chilling in the background, just adding a little bit of sauce, you know. The other important supporting element is this drop screamer. Now yeah, that sounds pretty horrible on its own. What I'm using is my aggressive screamer preset. I've just made a few modifications just to get the exact right tone I want. I'm automating the sick mode knob, which changes up the sound quite a bit. But in the context of everything, this screamy sort of noise that's just playing the top end, playing really wide, it's helping to make this really heavy and just sick in general. Alright, so now we have our Tearout song. Let me know how I did. This is not the typical type of song I'd be making, but it's really fun to branch out and make some really heavy Tearout dubstep. Obviously, Christmas is just around the corner, so for all of you guys out there celebrating Christmas, have a great one. For those of you who aren't celebrating Christmas, also, have a great one. Enjoy the final result. I'll catch you in the next video. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, happy living, have a good night.